This is the second time he's done this.
Excuse me, go ahead.
And this green also picks up on some of the green in the tablecloth. These are great for charcuterie boards. This one over. And there we are. Right outside of our raised bed garden is where we're going to be planting our Monte.
It's like I'm sinking deep underwater. Maybe it's harder.
Hi, it's Steph. Welcome back to my home. It is Saturday morning and I have a full weekend planned. Today, I'm going to take you along to Garden Club and then we are going to do a couple of things preparing for Thanksgiving. I'm going to show you some of the items that I've picked up for my tablescape. And we're also going to do a little bit of planting tomorrow. George has agreed to help me with some yard work. I'm going to share with you a couple of recipes. So I thought that we could just hang out and have a weekend together. Last night, I pulled out all of the items that I've been gathering for my Thanksgiving tablescape, and I thought that I would share that with you. Now, this all started because the tablecloths that I've been using for the last several years had started to get all stained, and stains that I couldn't get out with my Oxy laundry powder. So finally, I decided it was time for a new one. So in the last episode of Hooked and Rooted at Home, George and I had a day off, and we stopped over at Hobby Lobby. And I picked up this really pretty tablecloth. It's cream with these pumpkins. And so this was the jumping off point for the other items that I picked up. And usually I forage some greens and some things from the garden to do my centerpiece. But this year I saw this really pretty garland and I thought that I could use this from year to year. So I picked this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tablecloth down. And I had gone to a baby shower recently and they had what they call these runners made out of cheesecloth. I had never seen them before, but I thought it was really cool. And I actually bought this one for just $3.99 on Amazon. So I picked this up to layer on top of the tablecloth down the center. And then I'm going to put the garland on top of this. And then I have this candle holder that I actually thrifted a few years ago. And this is usually my centerpiece with all of my foraged greens and leaves around it. But I usually use real tapered candles and my mom is super paranoid about me having the real tapered candles lit around the table. So she usually blows out the candles before dinner even starts. So I thought that this year in the centerpiece, I would use some of these LED battery operated tapered candles. And they are actually so cool. I had never used them before, but they flicker and they look like real candles the way that the wax is. So I was able to find a 3-pack, which fits in here perfectly. So I think that that's going to work out really well. When it comes to dishes, I have 2 sets that I usually use for the holidays. I have a solid white set, a bowl and a plate. And I also have this really pretty set that, again, I thrifted a few years ago, and I've been using it for the last 3 years or so, and it's really pretty. And I'm just trying to decide which one I'm going to use. I really like the warm tones of this for the Thanksgiving holiday, but if I use this charger, I almost feel like the white will look better. So why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and help me make a decision. But this is what the white would look like with the gold beaded charger. And this is what this set would look like. I mean, I think either one looks really pretty. So that's what I'm trying to decide between. And I do think that the plaid napkins are going to look really nice mixed in with the tablecloth and the runner. And then the last thing that I picked up was these cups. These are what they call goblets. And this green also picks up on some of the green in the tablecloth. And I just thought they were really pretty. They call this a hobnail pattern. And on Amazon, they actually have this option to buy returned items. And so I only paid $23 for a set of 6, which I thought was great. And so this green color I thought was really pretty. So these are the items that I have for my Thanksgiving tablescape. And in the next episode of Hooked and Rooted at Home, when I actually do my Thanksgiving prep, I will show you how the table turns out. But let me know what you think in terms of the dishes option. Which set do you think I should use for the holiday? As the holidays approach, things get busier than ever, and it's easy to just skip meals or grab whatever's quick. I've been trying to be more intentional about supporting my health, which is why I've started drinking AG1, who is the sponsor of today's video. AG1 is a daily nutritional drink that helps support your body, brain, and gut. Your gut is often called your second brain, and when it's balanced, everything else tends to fall into place. Your immune health, your mood, and your digestion. I tend to get an afternoon energy slump, and AG1 includes a vitamin B complex that helps support energy throughout the day. It's part of my morning routine and helps fill in common nutrient gaps even when I'm eating pretty well. It combines a multivitamin, probiotic, and superfood blend in one scoop. I just mix it with cold water in the morning. It's quick, easy, and something I can actually stick with. The original flavor tastes like pineapple vanilla to me, but there are also some new flavors like citrus, tropical, and mixed berry. Go to drinkag1.com/hookedandrooted or scan the QR code on the screen to claim your free welcome kit. You'll get a bottle of their vitamin D3, K2, a shaker bottle, and a sample pack of all 3 new AG1 flavors. And thank you so much to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Well, I'm heading to Garden Club. We are getting some amaryllis bulbs, so we were asked to bring a pot and some soil for us to pot them up. And I'm gonna take you along. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to film, but we'll see when we get there. And then we are gonna head to Aldi.
But this is a smaller bulb and 26 centimeters. I use a potting mix. Make sure it's a good potting mix. Dead stuff here. If it bothers you, you can cut it off, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to set it in here. What you want is you want to have 1/3 to 1/4 of your bulb above the soil. But don't forget, you want to leave a little leeway for when you water it. So you don't want your soil all the way to the top. You want your soil to stop, maybe an inch or so below it. So like that. That's where you probably want the soil to be. And this should sit up like this. Top of the bulb should show. That's it. Make sure you have something underneath it, And you're not going to water it again until you see something coming up.
Oh.
Do not water it again.
How much water? How much water? How much water with the first water?
Well, first watering, make sure it drains all the way through.
Gotcha, okay.
And if you have soaked the pot, you won't have a problem. If you don't soak the pot and you water it, some of that water is going to go into the pot itself.
Okay.
So it's better to soak it. But you can still use plastic. That's not a problem, but you just have to put it inside something heavier.
I know my swipes. You have no idea, so I'll be making some. I just want to be here. He wants one of these green bags for whatever reason. Please take one. They're good to put dahlias in. Oh, who brought the coffee filters in?
I know, that's a good idea. I'm going to grab one.
What have you
Excuse me, go ahead.
What's the coffee filter? So it doesn't leach. I never thought to do that. Good, cool.
Good job, Denise.
It's a surprise. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's yours. Oh, yeah, yes, okay.
I love that pot. It's like an urn.
Yeah. Oh, she's got it.
I'm at Aldi and they have quite a selection of these salami and pepperoni, even some sets with prosciutto. And these are great for charcuterie boards for the holidays. And I actually love to pick out things for charcuterie boards here because they have some really great dips. Look at this, a truffle dip, street corn. This one is a cranberry jalapeno. And look at this, even salted caramel cannoli and chocolate chip cannoli. Lots of selections of cheeses. This. Some chili infused cheddar, some vintage English cheddar. There was one that I really like that I don't see right now, but it was a cranberry cheddar. Oh, look, here it is. I'm gonna grab one of these for Thanksgiving. These are delicious. the cranberry white cheddar, and they're $2.99. Look at this cheese. There is mango in it. That's really interesting. Some blue cheese, and this one has also cranberry. Double Gloucester cheese with onion and chive. So lots of great options for cheeses. Oh, goat cheese too. Blueberry vanilla and cranberry cinnamon. Everything cheese. So if you are looking for cheeses, crackers, meats, lots of options. They have some really good stuffing options around the holidays also. This is a brioche stuffing, and they have herb and garlic rosemary. So I'm gonna grab one of these. Look at that, charcuterie that only tastes expensive. They actually have a whole end cap with a bunch of things. So cheese crisps, these look really good. And all kinds of jams and jellies. I picked one up a couple of weeks ago at Trader Joe's. It was a jalapeno. They have a spicy tomato chutney, caramelized red onion, some glazed pecans, even some fancy pickles. These are really good. I picked these up last year. They're stuffed olives, feta cheese, and there's also the white cheddar. And these are some stuffed peppers, stuffed honey peppers with garlic cream cheese. Ooh, that sounds good. And this one is a picante pepper, also stuffed with cream cheese as well. $3.99 for those jars. And then they have some tamponade, black olive, basil and cheese, green olive. What else do they have here? Some dried figs and crackers. They usually have a box of mixed crackers that are very similar to the Pepperidge Farm, the entertainment crackers. I wonder if this is what they look like this year. Yeah, it might be. I thought there was a wheat one in it as well, but not bad. $4.99 for this. And you get the original, the multigrain, and the cracked pepper. These look good too. Cheese and onion puff pastry triangle crackers. And a holiday nut trio. These are even great for gifts. $7.99 for these. The sweet and spiced and the sweet and savory mix. I just spotted that they have some of these crackers that I used to like to get at Trader Joe's. The red chili scalloped crackers. I haven't seen them there in a while, so I'm gonna actually grab a box in case they run out. If you're going to Thanksgiving at someone else's house and you want to impress them with a side, this is actually really tasty. The smoked Gouda cheese mac and cheese. You can make 2 or 3 boxes of this, put it in a nice dish, and no one will know. $2.19 a box. Well, Rocco's being naughty again. I went to the grocery store and I had a loaf of bread on the counter to put away. I ran to the bathroom, never realized that the loaf of bread was gone. And this is the second time he's done this. He had a field day. He must have had at least 5 or 6 slices out of this bag of whole grain bread. And he left this one for later. And this is where he brings all of his stuff under the dining room table. And he went into the kids' rooms and grabbed wrappers that they hadn't made their way to put in the trash yet. So he's definitely having a little bit of a naughty streak. I got home a few hours ago. I put away all of the groceries. I was able to water the amaryllis that we potted up. Now, at the garden club meeting, one of the members was so generous and brought in a large stash of these really cute clay or terracotta pots. But I wanted to use my own pot because it is closed off at the bottom. And I have this one here that does drain. And because I'm going to put it on some furniture here by a window, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have any water coming out the bottom. If I use this clay pot, I would just have to put a saucer underneath it. But interesting thing about clay pots or terracotta pots is if you soak them before you put your soil in to plant, they are less likely to wick the moisture out of your soil. Because the thing with terracotta pots is the soil will always dry out so quickly because these pots are porous, they keep wicking the water. So I thought that was a really cool tip. So she said, well, these were outside. They've been rained on, so they're already pre-soaked. You can just go ahead and plant right into them, and it shouldn't wick your moisture. But because I brought this pot, this is what I used. So I have already gone ahead and watered that, and I'm gonna move it to a nice sunny window, and we'll see if it blooms by Christmas. But while at Aldi, I picked up some salami slices and some pepperoni, and we are going to make some really cute roses out of cold cuts that you can put on a charcuterie board or around your appetizers. And it's always a crowd pleaser. People are always so impressed by them, and they're so easy to make. So I thought that I could share how to make those with you. To make roses with pepperoni or salami, you just need a shot glass. Now I have two different sizes here. I have a small standard shot glass, and I have this one here, which I believe is for brandy. And so this one has a slightly larger opening than the smaller shot glass, and I have pepperoni and some salami slices. So to do this, really simple. You're just going to layer these slices on the rim of your cup. Okay, so I brought you in a little bit closer. And we're gonna start with the salami slices. Now you can wear gloves if you so choose. I did wash my hands. I feel like it's easier for me to work without gloves. Now Rocco is going to smell this, so he is gonna wanna hang out with us. But you just take your salami or your pepperoni, and you're just going to layer it, kind of cutting them in half like this. Not cutting them technically, but folding them in half and layering them just like this, one on top of the other, all the way around. And you are just going to keep layering until you can't fit any more pepperoni in the rim of this cup. You'll notice it starts getting fuller and fuller and tighter. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. And then you just flip this over, take your cup out, and look at that. Isn't that adorable? And you can place that on a charcuterie board, on a plate, surrounded by some crackers, some olives. Now we'll go ahead and make a smaller one with the pepperoni. Rocco, Mom will give you one in a minute. You gotta sit. Rocco wants a pepperoni. We used to have another Italian greyhound years ago, and he did not like pepperoni. We gave him one once and he just rolled around in it. But Rocco likes everything. Okay, so here we have the smaller shot glass and some standard size pepperoni. And we're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna fold them in half over the rim of your glass. I almost find that the larger slices are easier to work with than the smaller. All right, let's go ahead and flip this one over. And there we are. So I prefer the little bit larger slice. So these here, I find them much easier to work with. So if you can find pepperoni this size, that's what I would recommend. The littler ones are gonna be a little bit more spilled out like that. If you have guests that have not seen one of these before, it's always a conversation starter, and they're so easy and fun to make. So let me know in the comments, have you ever made a salami or pepperoni rose? And if not, I would encourage you to try them this holiday season because they make a really great addition to your charcuterie boards. With Thanksgiving just a couple of weeks away, I wanted to share with you a useful tip. Now, throughout the year, I like to save any kind of takeout containers and any food storage containers that I just wash out and I keep in this bag in my pantry so that I can send home guests with leftovers. So I've been hosting Thanksgiving for upwards of 15 years now, and I used to give away my good Tupperware, glass bowls, etc., and I would never get them back. So I decided to start keeping my containers, and now I always have a stash ready to go whenever whenever I host anything to send people home with leftovers. These containers from Cottage Cheese make a really great vessel for things like soup, pasta salad, mashed potatoes, etc. So if this isn't something that you do, I would highly encourage you to start saving your containers to send guests home with leftovers. Rocco, are you in the sun? So Italian greyhounds, much like cats, really like to be in the sun. So he looks for the sunniest spot in the house to hang out in. Is it nice and warm? He looks like he's about to take a nap. Today we've been doing some end of season yard work and we've decided on a spot for a Monte blue spruce. Look how beautiful it is. This is part of the Blues collection by Isley, and you might recall our Colorado blue spruce that we had in our garden that had gotten too big for its space, and we had to cut it down this spring by the arborist that we had come in to do some tree work. And to replace it somewhere else in the garden, we are going to plant this Monte blue spruce. It's an Isley introduction and it has the bluest blue coloring and it is cold hardy. And let's see, it grows 3 to 6 inches per year, and it has a 10-year garden size of 8 feet in height, 6 feet in width, and super hardy blue spruces down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And it wants full sun in order to keep this beautiful blue coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in my gorilla cart, and I'm going to wheel it down to where George is preparing a hole for us to plant this beautiful Monte. Right here in our back woodland area, right outside of our raised bed garden, is where we're going to be planting our Monte. And George has been working on digging a hole, and it's quite difficult to dig large holes on our property because it's very rocky. Every time that we dig, we pull up a ton of rocks. Look at that. So many rocks and so many roots, right? So that's what we're working on. Because the Monte is a very dense and large evergreen, it is a smaller version of the Colorado blue spruce, but because it will be dense, we wanted it kind of set back in the garden so that it would make a beautiful blue evergreen backdrop. And so this is going to be the perfect corner for us to get that hint of blue in the back of the garden and to kind of draw your eye back here. So once this hole is done, we're going to go ahead and get it planted. Well, it's been 45 minutes and George and I were wrestling this massive rock. Look at that. Huge. But it made an instant hole. We are going to fill it up with nice soil, compost, some biotone, startup fertilizer.
One water rock here on the side.
And get that last rock out. Holy moly. This one is just as big as the last one we took out. It didn't look like it because we only had like the edge that was popping out from under the fabric there. But it is huge. These are some boulders. We're gonna be hurting tomorrow, George. Well, that was a job, but I think this is going to look so beautiful here. We actually just got a view of it from the shed when we were putting away our tools. And once this fills out this corner, it's going to make such a pretty backdrop. So that was really productive. We didn't film a ton today because it takes a lot longer to do garden work and to film. So we just kind of wanted to get things done. But this here is a witch hazel that I planted last year, maybe 2 years ago now, George? I can't remember exactly.
I think it was last year around this time.
Yeah, it was about last year at this time. But this is the witch hazel Diane. So most of the witch hazels, the native varieties, will bloom with yellow. This one has a bit of a orangey coral color. The Diane, oh, it is so pretty. And it blooms at the end of February when nothing else is blooming, just before the spring bulbs like the daffodils start blooming. It is so pretty. And so I think this is going to be really pretty in this area with the Monte blue spruce. And I'm loving the way it's turning out. This is a really raw part of our garden, but over time, our goal is to develop these spaces so that they look really beautiful. Here's the view as you walk down this gravel path to our raised bed garden. You can see it peeking just beyond the arbor there. And here's yet one more view. You can see our little lime hydrangea hedge, our Japanese maple garden, and our new well bed that we just finished working on. And so when that blue spruce fills out right back there, I think it's going to look so pretty. Well, it's been a productive day so far. We went out to plant after breakfast and it is now time to make lunch. And I'm going to share with you a recipe for a delicious Thanksgiving shepherd's pie. That's what I call this recipe. Super easy and a great substitute for a traditional Thanksgiving meal if you're going to be by yourself or just don't want to make a huge turkey. You just need 4 ingredients. Some lean ground turkey, 2 jars of turkey gravy. You'll need a bag of mixed veggies of your choice. I'm just using a mixed bag, but you could use peas and carrots or corn, and you'll also need some sweet potatoes. So you can see here that I'm actually going to bake my sweet potatoes because I think it really makes them caramelize and get really sweet. So they take about an hour in the oven at 425 degrees. And then you're going to let them cool before you peel them. So while the sweet potato is cooling, I just added some olive oil to my skillet and I'm going to start browning my turkey. Now this just takes a couple of minutes and I'm going to season it with some salt, some black pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some poultry seasoning. And it literally takes about 5 minutes to brown some ground turkey. You could also chop up an onion if you wanted to add it, but I just used onion powder to make it nice and easy. Now that my sweet potatoes have had some time to cool, I'm going to go ahead and peel them and add them to my bowl. You could also cube these up and boil them, and that is another way to make your sweet potato mashed potatoes, which is going to be the topping for your Thanksgiving shepherd's pie. You can see that Rocco is really interested in what I'm doing. But once you let these cool a little bit, it's a lot easier to handle them and to start mashing them. Now you're just going to add them to a saucepan. You're going to mash up your potatoes a little bit, and you're going to add some of the same ingredients that you do when you make traditional mashed potatoes. So some butter, some milk. You could also use half and half or heavy cream if you have it on hand. And season it with a little bit of black pepper, some salt, and a really fun addition, which is going to give it a nice sweetness, is some maple syrup. Now, I just do all of this by eye, but you could use a recipe for this sweet potatoes. Actually, there is one that I found, and I can link it down below in the description. Now, you're going to add a jar of your gravy to your browned turkey. You're going to stir that in. And then you're going to start assembling your Thanksgiving shepherd's pie. So the first layer is going to be the ground turkey that you've mixed with the gravy. Then you're going to pour in your veggies, and you do not have to pre-cook them because they're going to cook in the oven. So you just put in your bag of frozen veggies, and then you layer your mashed sweet potatoes on top. Smooth it out, and you can also put a couple of extra pads of butter on top, some fresh thyme if you choose to, but I didn't, and I just popped it in the oven. You can see that Rocco is being naughty again. He always steals my dish towels and runs away with them. I think because I wipe my hands on him, he smells food. I'm not sure. But while that's cooking, I'm going to start working on some banana bread. Now, I did have these overripe bananas, and I make banana bread really often. And today, my boys asked me to make a chocolate chip variety, so that's what I'm going to do. But whether you add chocolate chips or not, the recipe is the same. It is super easy, but it's 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a half a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Also going to need a half a stick of melted butter, which should yield a 1/4 cup, and 3 really ripe bananas. So I mixed my dry ingredients first, my flour, my sugar, my baking soda, and my salt. And now I'm working on the wet ingredients. So I have already melted my butter, added it to the flour mixture, and now I'm gonna mash up 3 bananas. Super easy, and most people already have all of these pantry ingredients available. So it's a great way to use up those ripe bananas. You can also use them in smoothies. That's always another option. And then I'm going to beat 2 eggs and add that to the mix. And that is how you make your batter for your banana bread. You're just going to incorporate your batter and get everything mixed in. It makes a pretty thick batter. And at this point, you can decide to add chocolate chips. It is a really nice addition. And if you don't have any nut allergies, pecans or walnuts are also another great addition. And you're just going to measure with your heart and just sort of fold them into the batter until it's well incorporated. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and spray this 9x9 baking dish with some butter spray, and I'm gonna pour in my batter and then even everything out. And this is going into the oven for about 30 minutes at 375 degrees. And you can see that my Thanksgiving shepherd's pie is now done. So I pull that out and I put in the chocolate chip banana bread. Now I'm going to go ahead and serve the Thanksgiving shepherd's pie, and that other jar of gravy that we picked up is going to be used to top this. And this is just such a comforting, warm, and delicious meal. Then you can have some cranberry sauce on the side, and it is just really delicious. George really enjoys this, and I hadn't made it in a while, but this is the perfect time of year to pull out recipes like this. Always a crowd pleaser, and you get leftovers. This is one of those recipes that tastes even better the next day as leftovers because all of the layers and the flavors have had time to meld and marry. And I'll be sure to leave the recipe written down below in the description of the video, as well as in the pinned comment for both the Thanksgiving shepherd's pie and the banana bread. You can see that now my banana bread is all done. Now you can call this banana bread, you can call it banana cake, but the chocolate chips really are such a great sweet addition, and it gets nice and golden and delicious. And of course, what's better than eating it when it's nice and warm right out of the oven with a glass of milk? So I went ahead and served some up for my boys. George usually waits until it cools off a little bit. I always tell him that he's missing out on the deliciousness of it being warm. Rocco, of course, always waiting for a little snack, but he'll be getting one of his dog treats instead because of the chocolate chips and the banana bread. But this is how most evenings end at our house, with Rocco jumping up and down on his bed, fluffing it up, getting it just right before he climbs in. And this lasts for a full 2 minutes. And after all of that work, where he finally lies down, he decides that he wants to lay with George or me under the blankets on the recliner instead. But let me know what you thought of this episode. Are you planning on trying any of the recipes? I do have one more Hooked and Rooted at Home Thanksgiving edition that I'll be putting out the Saturday leading up to Thanksgiving, where I'll share my menu with you. We'll set the table together, and I'll share whatever else might be going on. So thank you so much for spending your time with us, and I'll catch you in the next one.